What's happening in Argentina, and why should the world worry?
Yeah, this is like a 5-minute speech, so I'll just get into it.
Go.
So it's like the global collapse Argentina edition. This is like a scary campfire story for you all. And okay, I'll go ahead. I think there's an important motive for the sadistic elite for picking Buenos Aires. Understanding it might involve looking past what politicians are saying about their economic agenda. It is a spectacle showing off the elite's way of defrauding middle classes to create submission out of an impending contagion and collapse. Spain, China, Canada, Italy all deserve analysis related to the impending collapse. I'll focus this one on Argentina because we have the G20 coming up. Your channel specifically is about the middle class wealth is in danger because of globalized debt bubble. Argentina represents an entire society that would fall apart at the bottom of this cycle. This is based on analyzing history of the dot-com bust and the 2001 collapse in Argentina and how they were part of a series of dominoes. Bear market U.S., bear market Argentina. Total economic collapse and anarchy in Argentina because they do have weaker institutions than the U.S. and Canada. And they do get set up for these things in Latin America. So a couple months after 9/11, Argentina defaulted and erupted into anarchy. So we had terrifying situations in both hemispheres. So when Americans opened up their stock portfolios and kind of cried in that period, Argentines were crying about their savings being wiped out in the banks. Now let's go to 2018. You know, your previous caller talked about the Bitcoin top. Yes, that was like peak liquidity, peak BS, peak lies, celebrating record highs in like all these stocks and also Argentine ones. U.S. Argentine ones, and then the CNBC media loved Argentina in January. Talked about Mauricio Macri, his wonderful economic boom he created, which was BS just like Bitcoin to me. Any images coming there?
Yeah, I got them right now, and I have the Pope here with the president of Argentina.
Yes, that's the former president, and this is to show the level of corruption we were willing to accept the past decade. You know, lady, I know you're going to destroy your economy. I know you give way too many things to poor people, but it's great to pose in a picture with you and pretend like you're cool. And then she passed on the catastrophe to the next president who's there now. You know, 10 years of leftism was her. He's 2 years of hyping a bubble, calling it the best investment. So they're both crooks, scumbags. But this is just showing the Pope's involvement in this, giving credibility to a model that leads to collapse and just moving on, taking advantage of our ignorance about it. Now here we are, 2008. These were the group of people that got together with a solution for Latin America. We're going to keep you stable. Trust us from the global crisis. We got Hugo Chavez. We got his oil. We don't need the IMF, this and that. We got a plan.
Yeah.
And then same thing in Brazil, just getting all the poor dependent on the government. In some ways helping lift them out of poverty, but also creating a state of dependency and corruption. So we have too many people living off the government still. And then now in this economic collapse, that's the result of this. So next picture, I guess.
Okay, here we go. Cárcel a la reina de la Mafia.
Oh, yeah, that's just the protest against her, calling her the queen of the mafia.
That's right.
But the Pope wouldn't tell you that. He'd drink tea with her and say she's a nice lady and trust her.
Yes. Next. Cringe Church? Is that you?
Yeah, it's almost loading.
German from English?
Oh, Kirchner means church. So this wicked woman I tell you about, Christina Kirchner, her name in Spanish and Italian means like follower of Christ of the church. So it's the biggest irony, because would it be that the woman who set the country up for its worst economic collapse ever has a name that means follower of Christ from the church? Just a fascinating irony, especially with her closeness with the Pope during her presidency.
Okay, I'm reading this other image here. Basta de Desperados and hambre.
Mockery is,
yeah,
the saying mockery is hunger. So now we have people on the street blaming mockery for their hunger, which could be blaming the previous presidency or him. You can blame the left, blame the right. I could blame Goldman Sachs, who's indebting the country. And then, so this is the backdrop to this dysfunctional country that's hosting the G20.
Can I, wait, let me jump in real quick. Argentina, I remember when I was really young, when I was a kid, I'm talking about like in the early, mid-'80s, everybody wanted to be in Argentina because everyone was rich like an Argentine. Argentina, everybody was wealthy, everybody did well, everybody produced, everybody exported, everybody had really well-paying jobs. And what happened to the rich like an Argentine? What happened to that?
Oh, I mean, it's just success crisis after crisis, and the group of rich gets smaller, the middle class gets smaller. You've got situations where great-great-grandpa came from Italy, and they built beautiful cities, but it's kind of like in some ways the grandkids have a less prosperous country than their grandparents had. It's like a memory. It's a sad one. And but we could learn lessons from this, whether it's the G20 using this country as a spectacle, as an example, where the same stuff is playing out in the United States and Australia, where we're distracted with celebrities and perverted things on TV, trashy music, and then we just let our politician class rob us into more and more poverty by indebting our countries. Mm-hmm. So the Argentine case is applicable to the rest, and then it's important to us in this global contagion because now Apple, for example, lowered its guidance for the next year based on emerging market distress, and this is the biggest example of it and the biggest example of a contagion because it will blow into the whole South America basically. And this is about the submarine that went down.
Yeah, that was in the news yesterday.
Yeah, and then this is just how they're pinning it on Macri, like it's completely his fault, and then she's saying the president didn't receive us. So part of the hatred of the government is coming from the right wing who loves the military that feels he failed the military for this thing happening, as well as his reaction. So
it's saying here in the bottom, El presidente nunca nos recibió. The president never received us.
Yeah, he never received victims to console people on the tragedy, I guess. So they don't like his handling of it. So the next image.
Yep, I'm there. Marci Hambre.
Yep, they're still saying he's causing the hunger, the new president. You're blaming him for the lack of jobs and stuff, but it was a time bomb given from the previous government.
But okay. Time bomb from the previous government. Question. How long till things get steamrolled? I mean, I know it's easy to brainwash the masses when you're hungry and point the finger. How long is it going to take for a lot of these people to wake up and then start forming a correction as a whole instead of dividing?
Oh, impossible. They are perfectly divided between these two political leaders, putting on their right and left hats and being swindled for the purpose of creating a collapse and then a new world order. And then just the thing I know about the G20 is that ahead of the G20 and Argentine mainstream media news, it's all about hyping up terror threats, arresting Hezbollah members, arresting these and that Muslims, creating a division between religions there, and then anarchists, talking about the anarchists putting bombs in certain places. There was a bomb in a cemetery last week, in the Ridge Cemetery. So just weird things, but they're like terrifying the people. So it's like as a conspiracy theory, like I don't know how we'd read that. Like, are they trying to terrify us ahead and then nothing happens? And then in the Argentine, alternative media, they're just screaming false flag, false flag, false flag. So I just think it's usually when people are saying false flag that nothing happens. But in the economic analysis, the economists are saying there's an Argentina before the G20 and an Argentina after. So whatever they're doing now with their emergency loans from the IMF is just kind of pushing things along until the next couple of weeks to get the meeting done. That's a theory. And then after that, it's some sort of chaotic situation as well. They're doing things to shut down the Congress next year and take an extra long recess. So they're playing some games. So 2019 looks terrible for the country.
Can I ask, when was the first runoff? Was that in 1991 when Argentina had a runoff on their banks and everyone's trying to withdraw their money and exchange it into U.S. dollars? Was that 91 or 89? I can't remember.
Well, yeah, the fascinating thing is you talk about the rich Argentina and stuff, and there have been crises like this in this rich Argentina. 1989. So a lot of people lost money in 1989. So it's like pretty much every decade and a half. They've done it in the 1960s too. Yeah. But they would have this rebound.
They had to shut the banks down because of the runoff on the financial on the cash market. The cash market was seeing a runoff into conversion into, and then that's when the U.S. dollar spiked pretty much overnight. The next trading day, the U.S. dollar went up, I think, anywhere from 2 to 3 cents in less than an hour of opening trade because the amount of Argentinian people converting their currency into American currency.
Oh yeah, that's standard Argentina style, and they always come back. And then what we're going into now is another downturn, another example of it. But it has a way of causing contagion to the whole region. And then why this matters right now, this week, this month, and in this stock market is all the U.S. companies operating there that don't need this to happen right now. You know, our assets peaked with theirs. It was a simultaneous run-up in January. And you look at companies like Saputo, which is based in Montreal, they make cheese. They've got production in Argentina and stuff. So when there's hunger in Argentina, that's a cheese company not making much money.
Mm.
Yeah, and then...
So I got a video here, too, that Anon just sent us about... we'll just play this here for a few seconds here. Argentina poverty. And it's on Al Jazeera. If you see it, it should be popping up on your screen there because we have a slight delay here. And let's see what she's saying.
We used to be able to do a barbecue every once in a while, but not now.
Campaigning is underway in Argentina. With presidential elections only a few months away, poverty is at the center of the debate. The government claims Argentina has one of the world's lowest poverty rates with only 5%. But the opposition claims those figures are unrealistic. The National Statistics Institute has been essentially run by the government since 2007. That's why people like Daniel Menendez have been struggling to find out how many live below the poverty line. He works for a social movement to help the poor.
Our group measures every month the price of basic staples. How much is the bread, biscuits, sugar? And we compare that to the amount of money needed to live. Our numbers indicate that poverty in Argentina is between 25 and 30%.
A sharp decrease since the economic crisis in 2001, when poverty figures rose to around 50%, but still far from the 5% the government likes to claim.
The government has implemented social programs that have helped millions of people around the country. But in slums like this one, people tell us that those programs are not enough to leave poverty behind.
The Observatory of Social Debt in Argentina, founded by Pope Francis, recently released a report claiming that at least 11 million people are living in poverty. Agustín Salvia says inflation is the main problem.
Inflation has been on the...
People now don't necessarily like the new guy either because they said, we were barely having enough with her, now we have him and we have less. So...
Well, well, to get a correction, people will have to start sacrificing to start, to get things on track. You're going to have to start to sacrifice, and people are going to have to start to take a cut in something to you know what I'm saying, to kind of revitalize or bring back, but when what do you call it? Morale is down, and when morale's down in the people, it's pretty bad because it's really hard to uplift the people.
Oh yeah, and that's why these countries they don't really advance because they're obsessed with they need a strong leader that's like a dictator type to do this, and
basically they need someone that's going to shut out the outside interference, the outside meddling, the outside the red tape, the ergonomics, all the Mickey Mousing that's going on the outside to treat the country like a what do you call it, a puppet? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that'll never happen, unfortunately. And yeah, and then just I see the comments in here about Brazil. Yeah, just a total scumbag just won.
We'll do Brazil next week. We'll do Brazil next week. Okay? Brazil is good. We'll do Brazil next week. I spoke to a couple of friends down there personally, but they don't speak English. So, I was talking to them about it and then maybe having them on my Portuguese channel about it because I could go live on my Portuguese channel, which I do sometimes too. But the problem is, I want to bring them on the English channel too, but they're they know 3 words in English and that's it. So, yeah, so you'll cover the Brazil one next week here on my English channel, and we could go over this and what's happening here. Is there another image after this one? Here we go.
Well, I did send the other email, which had some articles.
Yeah, I'm gonna paste them in the thing for people to read, and I'll open them up here. I'm just gonna open my Gmail again. One sec here.
Yeah. This is the people. This is the people protesting the IMF.
Well, remember what happened when Salazar protested the IMF? The Portuguese Empire fell. In 1973, 74, Salazar from Portugal told the IMF basically, like, you know what? Yeah, it's not going to fly. We're not going to join the World Bank. And guess what happened? Portugal is horrible. We got to get rid of them. They got to get out of Africa. They have to, and guess what happened after Portugal left? The country's crashed, and tanks on the street blowing up schools. Not the Portuguese, though. Not the Portuguese, because they left.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just the IMF. It's very divided the country, but no one likes the IMF. Really, middle classes even, because they see how it's screwing them. Because the government has to meet conditions for the IMF, and that involves cutting back on retirements, and that's what the current government's doing, meeting the austerity plans, and they see Christine Lagarde as this, wicked queen. Yes, now this is going back to January. We can just glance at this one, glance at all these. Just here, the title of the article is about the wonderful boom in Argentina taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Next.
Hold on.
This is about shattering Argentina.
Let's start here, right here. Argentina's president, Marci Powers, biggest stock market boom in the world.
Oh, yeah, there he did that in January, pumping a BS boom, coming to the United States, saying it's a great time to invest. He's a great businessman. It's that thing that, like, somehow he's going to share it with the rest of the country. There he is at the White House, and Trump loved it, said he's going to do wonderful things for Argentina, with no facts behind it, but that's a pattern I see.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next article here. The IMF and Argentina, a case of history repeating, and then that goes back to this one you sent me here. Where the heck did it? Yeah, the article of them protesting the IMF.
Yeah, just other things. If someone wanted to look at this, so the IMF is keeping Argentina afloat till the end, and then it's a gutter investment until then, really. And then with this, there'll be a buying opportunity with the rest of the stocks. Then you can go to the next article.
That's just like what happened with Greece, where there was massive sell-offs in Greece.
Yeah, and Greece is selling off today, as well as Austria and Italy. You notice that?
Yeah. So that's becoming... Here we go. The world's worst currency is shattering home buyers' dreams. This is
on October 25th. So, like January, it's the wonderful success story of Argentina. Now in October, it's the shattered dreams.
Yeah, so you see how it goes from the greatest thing on earth, greatest thing since sliced bread, and then now it's the worst thing that it's a nightmare.
That's the fake news for you.
Yep. So Bloomberg, you think Bloomberg is telling it how it is? I think they are.
Oh, yeah, but of course it's like after the fact, and they saw this coming a year ago but wouldn't, like stuff like that.
It's just like the housing thing. The thing I talk about housing for the last, 7, 8 years now, and now people are making housing channels talking about how it's crashed and what we did wrong. It's like, why didn't you come out 7 years ago and start pointing out these things when I did?
Oh, right. And of course we always look to them. Still, great, great discovery they made. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's like getting an alarm for your car to protect it after it gets stolen twice. Why didn't you put an alarm before it gets stolen the first time?
Yeah, and then the comments here, I see people saying Argentina booming just like Bitcoin. It's like, yep, name your fake investment in January. It was topping.
Yeah.
Everyone's celebrating their gains.
Yep. Argentina central bank rate hike 60%. As currency collapses. That was back in August. Remember that? You sent me... I think we were talking about that.
Yeah, and me and you talked about Bitcoin and emerging markets last Christmas time, and it was the same spiel we were saying, that CNBC is now Bitcoin channel, coin channel, and that's all anyone talked about. Okay, that was the extent of the articles?
That's all I got, yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Where's oil going, buddy? Because I'm heavily invested in oil, and I've lost about 13%. And
well, you remember what I said? You remember what I said the past couple weeks, right? I'd be calling in, talking about oil.
Mm-hmm. Well, say it again. I want to hear it.
Okay. I didn't agree with you on oil as investment because I see the dollar is strengthening in a global deflationary collapse.
Okay. I got one more article. One more article. Argentina's new financial crisis has some haunting similarities to its last one, but also some key differences.
Yeah, and this article I thought was a terrible one, and I just wanted to show you the level of fakeness in the media because they are like declaring the crisis over before it had a chance to run through. So they're saying, oh, this one's not as bad. Look at this. Look how bad it was. It's like, hey, it's just starting. Relax.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to be like Venezuela. It's going to keep going. Venezuela's been in turmoil for, what, 15 months now?
Right, and then Venezuela still has a breaking point when they lose grip on power. And then there's, what are we going to, is the U.S. going to invade it? Good question.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? I think they're going to wait till it's bare bones, and then I think the U.S. will come in and police it.
Right, and the UN or something. Yeah.
Yeah, the UN doesn't look too bad. So you put the UN in there, it looks like the United Nations are there to unify the country, but in reality, they're probably stripping the rest of the bones.
But I think anything bullish economically, like time to invest, buy when there's blood in the streets, I think that doesn't happen until we have a new president in the United States. Mm-hmm. Like, they will hold this bear market. And your previous caller talked about an 86-year bear market. I at least can guarantee it's going to be 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of this, the midterm flipped over in the United States. And then, yeah, so this is part of a globalized bear market. And just it'll be fascinating to watch the G20 as they showcase the sickness and sadisticness of their plan for us. And we'll just have to...
Okay, wait, one more question. What about Russia? How are they playing ball right now with Venezuela? Do you see Russia coming in and China coming into Argentina as the saviors, just like they tried to do with Venezuela?
Well, definitely not Argentina, because Argentina aligned itself with the United States and took itself under the United States wing with Obama and Macri.
So did Iran at one point, but now.
But they talk about their personal friendship and stuff, and then the cultural ties are really strong as far as being a Western country. There's no chance that Macri turns towards Russia or anything, like a pivot. He did some business with China, but the thing about China and Russia is it's very hard to analyze seriously what they're up to, because they're extremely corrupt, and that's why the Chinese market tracks the Argentine market to collapse like any banana emerging market. And just extremely corrupt foreign policy of China. They claim victory in a lot of ways they shouldn't, so it's hard to say. There's the same thing with Russia. He changes his political ideology every day with geopolitics. Putin can easily rob his own people till they are growing potatoes on their balcony.
Yeah. Okay. One last question, sanity question I had today on my channel. If you go back 100 years and you want to explain 2018 to the people 100 years ago, and they're obviously going to ask you, what have we accomplished as humans? Have we gone to the moon? Do we have flying cars? Without swearing or freaking out, how would you explain to the people of 1918 how 2018 is today without, freaking out?
Oh, just like another decadent era. I know that at 1918 the Great Depression didn't happen, but it's like the Gilded Age. It's just like a sick society, a corrupt society, a decadent society when we're all focused on we're being fooled by corruption in a decadent era. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
What do you think people will be brokenhearted 100 years ago if we went back and told them that we haven't accomplished anything? We haven't even cured cancer, or supposedly cured cancer, but it's making a lot of funding though. How do you think people would react? Because that's the question. Because the people fought hard 100 years ago to make a better, like you said, for Argentina, the grandparents and the great-grandparents worked their butts off to make a country infrastructurally sound for the future. What would they think if you went back in time and told them what happened with the divide and all these different groups that are forming and all these different genders and all these different language is being butchered? How can you explain it to people?
Oh, yeah, just like a new dark age. And then I see we're talking about the weather getting colder too. Yeah, it'll be a nice dark age and something to suffer.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. Anyways, I really appreciate you coming on the show and giving us this little looky at a good a perspective of Argentina. It means a lot to me that it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me that you put this much effort into this, and this is why this show is good. Is because it's everybody's show. I'm just here talking, right? So everybody else contributes their knowledge and information, and this is how we grow, right? We still have this.
Yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate having me. Sorry.
Yeah, we could still do this, but unfortunately, there's gonna be a time where we can't do this anymore.
Oh yeah, I see the censorship coming down, and just the independent analysis won't be allowed. And just the thing I was going to add was just like your previous caller, he said a lot of things that I completely agree with on the coming bear market and how 2019 would be horrible for Bitcoin. I mean, stuff like that is a great distraction for us to get people to get roped into BS and belong something in a correction of everything. And the Argentine collapse is a different branding on the same collapse that's happening in Canada, just because it's more third world. The anarchy in a country like Argentina is a financial anarchy in Canada. Mm-hmm. So I do anticipate a complete wipeout. And you talked about, oh no, oil, that would mean Canada's completely up the creek without a paddle. And I said, yep, that's exactly what we've been covering with the real estate and everything, is that Canada has no way out. Yeah. And would find itself in type of an emerging market crisis. Then again, you wouldn't have riots in the street like Argentina, but really questioning banks and stuff, it'll be interesting. And even in Australia, they're questioning the banks. Will our deposits be there? Have you seen that?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. That was sent to me by a guy in Brisbane. Sent me that.
So he's got a serious worry. So Australians should even be preparing for an Argentine type situation.
Yep, run off on the cash market too.
Yeah, or just the bank that doesn't have your money, and then so then that's the whole thing about preparing. How they do that, I'm not sure. But just like your previous caller, I've been short since September, like I said. There's a long list of things to look at, from Canadian banks to stupid things in the U.S. like cruise lines and things that still seem elevated. Oh, right. And the whole notion of financial planning in the United States. These companies that, they have commission-based financial planners. Yeah. There is a whole sector, too, that would go down the tubes in the start of this crisis because they gain commission on selling you the bull story. And those type of people don't want you to know about what's going on in other countries.
Of course they don't want you to know. We're never in the know. We don't. I think the typical guy, the typical man, we haven't scratched the surface of what's really going on, and that's the scary part.
Oh, right. And just like in finance news, it gets covered up based on everything. I mean, the Kavanaugh story just took over, and then you could not get a word in about the economy when that was the main story. Yeah. Then it turned into the election, and there was just such a huge deal, whether we have King Schumer or Queen Pelosi. And
dude, if I was in that house, I swear I'd bring an MP3 player when she's talking. I wouldn't even pay attention, dude. That's how bad it is.
Yes, and on the left they feel the same way, because their attitude is, what's this lady done for us? But she's still got her importance, and she can still yap away. And these are the clowns that are going to prevent a next crisis? No.
Nope.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, well, I thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll see if we can get someone else on, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I look forward to listening to people, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. God bless, and have a good night.
You too.
Thanks. So that's Anthony, our in-depth market analysis, giving us an insight on what's happening in the Argentina market. That was a really good presentation by him. And that means a lot to me that people are taking the time to get their word in and what's happening. And